Welcome to Renegade Thinkers Unite, featuring the sharpest minds in marketing, inspirational case histories, and weekly insights you can apply to your business. Find out why top CMOs rank this podcast among their favorites. Now, here's your host, Chief Marketing Renegade, Drew Nizer.
All right, we are live with another episode of Renegade Thinkers Unite, and I'm excited about today's conversation for a number of reasons. I've worked on brands that are, 100 plus years old, 75 years old, and it's very hard. It's very hard to move the needle. It's very hard to change an organization, and it's really hard to change perceptions. And that's what this conversation today is all about. My guest is Lorraine Barber-Miller, who is the CMO of ADP. And my guess is everyone here listening has heard of ADP. So before we get into that, though, you spent 21 years at IBM.
That's right.
And so is this like the second company you've worked at in your career? Oh, my gosh. Okay. So that puts you in very rarefied air as CMOs go. Thinking back on your IBM experience for a moment, what were some, maybe one or two things you look back, God, I'm so proud we were able to do this. This really cut through.
So I think, Drew, the most memorable part of my time with IBM is actually the time that I spent overseas. In 2008, IBM had decided to grow its growth market strategy and to geographically expand beyond the westernized cultures and countries. And so at the time, I had moved to Dubai to lead marketing and communications for what was at the time the small and medium business segment of Central Eastern Europe and Middle East and Africa.
So I'm still trying to sort of Dubai, it's the Middle East, you're a woman. What kind of adjustments did you have to make as a female executive in Dubai to succeed, if any?
Well, in fact, the culture in Dubai is very progressive.
Okay.
So, in fact, the changes were not many.
Right.
I think anytime you are entering a new landscape, you need to be respectful and honor the history and the culture. But at the same time, Dubai is very conducive and very welcoming to the Western world and very cosmopolitan.
Very diplomatic of you. I think your third job will be in the American Diplomatic Corps. Okay, so you get to Dubai. First of all, a lot of people probably would have said, "What are you doing?" I mean, you're in the marketing department. This is not exactly. It doesn't feel like an elevation. It feels like you're getting sent off somewhere. Hope you come back. Good luck. I mean, what was sort of that took some courage.
It did. Most coworkers at the time didn't even know where I was going from a map perspective or geography perspective, let alone what I was going to do there. But because I had always looked at my career as an opportunity to reinvent myself, if you will, I raised my hand and I wanted to work internationally. This was an incredible opportunity to be part of IBM's growth strategy at the time. And so I did that, and having moved to Dubai to really bring the Smarter Planet agenda at the time, you'll remember, bringing that to life in over 100 countries across this geography, as I mentioned, we used to call Central and Eastern Europe, Middle East and Africa.
Yeah,
mouthful. Three continents and 100 countries.
It couldn't be more different.
That's right. That's right. Very different from a cultural perspective, from a way of doing business, languages, really so diverse and yet very fragmented.
So what were you able to, so you get to this place, you've got all these cultures, what happened that you look back, other than just being there, and what did you accomplish while you were there?
So we were successful in that we were able to establish the brand on the ground in many of these countries for the very first time. It's a beautiful legacy to leave, right? And we were establishing the brand to be consistent around the world. So we were teaching the local teams the signature IBM way, right? And so it was fascinating to bring the brand to life, and yet so many different cultures, ways of working, and every country had a different national agenda. right? And so we wanted to become that partner of choice and have a point of view, whether it was smarter cities or smarter water, smarter banking, smarter healthcare for the citizens of those countries.
I mean, one of the things that's so interesting about IBM, by the way, I think I've worked on them 5 times in my career, years and years ago before starting Renegade, and we were guerrilla marketing agency for IBM several different times. And so it was fun, but what was always amazing is this is a company that understands brand.
Yes.
And big, thinking big, acting big, and not often did things that one might argue were harder to measure from a sort of clicks to the end sell-through kind of measure, but on a brand level, IBM was far more top of mind than maybe their products or services were warranted.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a company that has historically proven to reinvent itself very successfully for more than 100 years.
Right.
So, and it has a history of innovation, right? And so I think that was a place that I was taught to be bold, to be brave in our thinking, and I'd like to believe I've carried that through with me throughout my career and also in my current role.
Okay, so big, bold move, going overseas, you come back, and you start at ADP. And so let's talk about that. First of all, it's a big deal. You've worked at one company that's done things pretty much the IBM way. I mean, IBM obviously evolved a lot over the 20 years you worked there, because I saw it evolve tremendously, but still, it has a way of moving.
Yes.
Now you're at ADP, which is still a huge company. What, 100,000 employees? How big is ADP?
58,000.
58,000. So relatively speaking, it's small compared to IBM with 300, 400,000 employees. Okay. How did you how'd you start?
So the way I started was respecting that history and the culture. ADP has enjoyed significant financial performance in terms of success, right? And so many things were going very well. However, when I came into the role, let's say I did my 100-day evaluation or assessment, and that informed the first ever marketing strategy for the company in its 70-year history.
Wait a second. First ever marketing plan? What were they doing? So this is a completely 100% sales-driven organization for 70-plus years?
For the most part, yes.
Right.
Very sales-driven,
right.
Very high performance, and yet marketing had not been a growth enabler until now. Interesting.
And what I see and I suspect is, let's face it, once you get in the door and you're doing payroll, you don't switch.
No.
It's like a bank. Unless you really have to have something horrible happen for you to switch. So switching. So once and once you have them, then it's land and expand.
That's right.
Right. And so that's been the business model.
Right. Very much around retention.
Right.
Very much around the stickiness of the business. And then once you have a client for payroll, hopefully you can start to sell the rest of the portfolio. Right. But as I came in and did this evaluation of mine, and by the way, I had spoken to our executive committee, to all the functional leaders in the business, my own staff, to clients, to prospects, to external influencers, to really understand the landscape and to inform my point of view. One of the elements or conclusions that I drew was that the brand itself was not resonating any longer, right?
Okay, let's stop there for a second. So you do all this primarily qualitative research.
Correct.
And this is you and your team sort of investigating here's the culture, here's the values, here's where we've been. And you do this thing, and everybody's heard of ADP, but the moment the sort of something's wrong. It's not resonating, meaning what?
Meaning it was resonating from the aspect of payroll only. Right? For the core business, as you rightfully pointed out at the beginning, but not much more than that.
Right.
In the meantime, the best kept secret is that ADP, in fact, offers end-to-end solutions for human capital management. So a full portfolio. But our clients and our prospects primarily, and by far, knew us for payroll only. Right? So it's time to change that narrative and tell a story that had never been told.
So I'm thinking, because there are a lot of, is it gustos coming up from the sort of in the small business? So you have lots of people sort of looking at this legacy brand doing things in a legacy way, saying, wait, they've been doing it this way. And there's, it's like taxis and Uber. So Gusto comes along, or Gusto, however you pronounce it. And then there's a lot of others. And then you've got all these other folks that are sort of picking at the edges with timesheet management and human resources stuff. And so you're locked in here, enviably, but they don't know you for anything else.
That's right. So it's a very crowded marketplace, to your point, right? Highly profitable, high growth. It's a very attractive marketplace to be part of.
Right.
But yet, this is where it becomes very difficult to differentiate, right? Because there's a lot of noise.
Right.
Everyone is talking and everyone is using the same language. So we really found the opportunity here to really differentiate and to transcend the industry.
Okay. We're going to pause right there because transcending the industry is what we want to talk about. So we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Did you know that Renegade Thinkers Unite was ranked number 2 of the top 10 podcasts for CMOs by Crackerjack Marketing? Wow, we're really honored. Now, we couldn't do that without amazing guests, and we've had some amazing CMOs on this show, and also terrific listeners like you all. If you like what we do here, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player. That way, you'll never miss an episode. Also, as a special thanks, I'd like to send you a free ebook on Renegade Thinkers. Now, for that, just email drew@renegade.com. Now let's get back to the show.
Okay, we're back. And Lorraine Barber-Miller, CMO of ADP, and I have been talking about the situation that you found. Solid brand, really good in payroll, lots of competitors say, hey, we're cooler, we're hipper, we're smarter, we're relevant. These guys are not, they're not relevant. And so now what?
So this year we celebrate our 70th anniversary. And in the year leading up to our anniversary, we took the time to reflect and ask ourselves, what are we working for, right? What is our purpose? And in doing that, we took all 58,000 associates along this journey with us. They helped us co-create and to really mine for that truth about us. And the underlying truth is that we are always designing for people. This became the basis for our campaign and really for our new brand platform, right? Because we believe that work is about more than just getting paid. Yes, it's a nod to our history and who we've been, but yet it's more than that. And we believe that because we have a strong understanding about the changing world of work, we do also have a point of view that it's about more than just getting paid and that there is a reason as to why we all work. Hence the campaign, what are you #working for?
Okay, so I want to break this down. What's interesting to me when I was looking at this and trying to sort of wrap my mind around it is if you're trying to redefine your brand and your brand is initials, then if you assign new things to those initials, maybe people will think differently about you. So that's a sort of pretty solid trigger there, right there. Think about us differently because it's not automated data processing or whatever that ADP used to stand for. It stands for something new now. Okay.
In fact, it still stands for automatic data processing. We haven't changed the name of the company.
I'm sure you haven't, but you have changed what people might think those initials stand for. I mean, that's pretty concerted effort. Right. Okay, always designing for people. I thought about that language, too, and I said, okay, who's the hero of that story?
It's the actual worker. Anyone who works, right? Because the reason we ask the question, what are you working for? That's really an opportunity to spark a global conversation with anyone who works. We all have a motivation, right? Whether it's putting a child through college, whether it's an early retirement, we all have an ambition and a reason as to why we work. And we believe that what we do at ADP enables our clients to achieve what they're working for and for their businesses to thrive.
So ADP helps these companies who helps their employees. And that's sort of there. And so the people here are who you're designing for. So that's the platform, as you called it. It's a platform for the brand. Okay. Now, how did you know, let's just take that language, how did you know that was good language? How did you know that was right?
Always designing for people?
Yes.
In fact, before we launched, we conducted a number of focus groups and some research work to truly test not only the platform, but also the campaign at the same time as one full system. And so we conducted a number of focus groups both here domestically in the U.S. as well as internationally with our target audiences, whether they be small business owners or enterprise CHROs, CIOs, CFOs. And they came back and resoundingly told us that it resonated and that they believed it. It was credible and it was really reflective of who ADP has always been and continues to be for them.
So when you're testing this, you already have not only the platform but the campaign, and you're going out that way. There weren't alternatives to this that you looked at?
We did test alternatives.
Okay.
In the end, we had a preference for the one that we had ultimately selected. Right. But we did test another campaign and platform. And through this research, clients, prospects validated the one that we were ultimately gravitating towards. But both were very strong. But in fact, before we went out to launch, because this is the first time we've ever done this in the history of the company, we wanted some validation from the market.
Sure. Well, and that helps. So, and they're saying now let's talk about what did they see, because it's funny, if you show someone a tagline, they don't have the imagination necessarily to know how this is going to come to life. Even just do it wouldn't be just do it without the amazing videos that you initially saw when they launched that campaign. So what did you show them?
So we shared with them our new manifesto, which has since been published in the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Washington Post, as well as through digital display at the Oculus, as well as in San Francisco's BART station. And of course, we have it online, and all of our associates have since taken this to heart. So we read them the manifesto, and we asked them who they thought we were speaking of, right? And so you get a variety of answers. And then we revealed who we were.
So it was a blind exposure. Okay.
Right. And they said, yep, I get it. That sounds right. That sounds like who they are and who they're becoming. So we tested the manifesto, and then we showed them the platform of Always Designing for People along with the campaign of what are you #working for. And then it all started to come together. And of course, based on their input, we did fine-tune it for the final version that has made it to market. The one aspect that I'm especially proud of, and yet in the focus groups also told us the same, was that we brought the campaign to life through the eyes of our clients, right? They are the center of this campaign. It's not about us, not about our products, not about our services.
You're not the hero of the story?
We're not the hero. We're the enabler,
yes,
right? And as you see, our first ever 360 campaign that we've placed in market in our first ever TV commercials, they are employees of our clients that talk about what they're working for.
Interesting. So I want to, before we get to that, and I think we'll end up covering that on this segment, one of the things that's always interesting to me is when you have a new idea like this, a new positioning, even if we'll call it a brand vision for the moment, you often walk this fine line between sort of who you are and who you want to be. It can't just be where you are today. Because you're just, everybody knows you as payroll, and you're really saying, no, we're about a lot more. And so in that process of saying we're moving forward and we're changing along with the industry, what kinds of things organizationally did you need to do to sort of catch up with that vision, if at all, anything?
Well, it's a great question. So, in fact, I would say both externally and internally we took some steps. So before we got to the internal aspects of taking our associates on this journey, we conducted quite a bit of external research with existing clients and prospects. We asked them about their current perception, and then we asked them about what would they want to see ADP evolve or transform into. And And, of course, you get quite a bit of feedback. But at the end of the day, the underlying thread there was that our clients want us to be successful. We have permission. We have permission in the marketplace to extend beyond what they've historically known us to be, right? Because we've built the trust and we've delivered the value, and essentially they've entrusted their most valuable asset to us, their people, their talent, right?
Sure.
There is that extension of, or that permission to be more to them or for them.
Interesting. And there's some inherent strength there then. I mean, I remember years ago when Sony was actually an amazing brand, there was some research done that they could have been a car because the brand was so strong at the time that they could have extended that. And so that's a good feeling that your brand can extend. There's elasticity to it. That's probably one of the advantages in that case of initials that have long lost their meaning, is that you can build and evolve the company. So that's really interesting. So you got permission to do it, which is important. Now let's talk about what did you do internally besides saying, hey, here's our new campaign platform. Did you do anything substantively different as an organization? Say, hey, in order to live up to this new promise, we need to make some changes.
So yes. In fact, so on the flip side, the internal efforts, right? So ADP has had numerous campaigns in the past, right? This time, I wanted to take a very deliberate, very intentional, but yet different approach that had not been taken before, which is focusing on the internal aspects and the enablement of our associates, right? Previously, it had been a campaign. There was an external splash. I call it veneer. I wanted something that was really meaningful and enduring and lasting for the company, especially as we were approaching our 70th anniversary. We took on a piece of work to really, as I said, extract our purpose for the brand. And then from there, we spent quite a few months, ever before an external launch, to take all 58,000 associates on the journey with us. Who are we? Right. What do we stand for? How do we sound? How do we act? And really, it's just about very much ingraining the purpose in our people and how they live it every single day in the work that they do.
And how long did you spend doing that? You had the idea, you've done this. How long about, would you say, before you go public and say, hey, we're this new company, we're doing all this cool stuff. How long did you spend?
So from the time we launched internally to the time we launched externally, it was about a good 6 months.
Awesome. I love hearing that. And let me tell you why.
Yes.
The opposite of that is, and there've been a couple of guests that way, and I called them on it, is their answer was, well, we had this new campaign, we had this new brand, we had all this stuff, but we didn't have time to we really had to, sort of catch them up. And the problem with that is, as you know, is your employees make promises real.
Yes.
And if they're not up to speed, someone calls the call center and says, hey, I could use some help with this kind of new area. And they call, no, we don't do that, so leave us alone. Right? And you're now sort of reorienting everyone to do this. So, all right, perfect place to take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about some of the external executions that you've done.
Excellent.
You've been listening to another great interview on Renegade Thinkers Unite with Drew Neiser. But the value doesn't end there. As a listener, you can download a free ebook from Drew, Renegade Thinkers, interviews with 11 trailblazing CMOs any business can learn from. Top marketing thought leaders and proven executives from Time Warner, American Express, and Chico's, and others. Get your free copy at renegadethinkersunite.com/ebook. For listeners only at renegadethinkersunite.com/ebook.
All right, we're back. We've done a lot of research, both with our customers and our employees. We've made sure that we have permission to make new claims to our customers. We've now spent 6 months sort of repurposing the organization. Now it's time to launch this thing. And one of the things that one of our favorite clients once said is, you only get one time to launch.
Yeah.
How did you bring this new idea to life?
So we decided, because our ambition as a company, and frankly our history has been around innovation, we invented the industry 70 years ago, but because we wanted to continue along the path of innovation and to transform the company, we decided to show up in a very unexpected place. So we launched our new brand at South by Southwest.
Unexpected.
Right? ADP probably has no business to be there, probably not expected to be there, but in fact we said if we are about innovation, if we are about technology and enabling our clients' businesses that way, we want to show up at the world's innovation and technology stage.
Right.
So we showed up in two very different ways. First of all, of course, we sponsored the Future Workplace track. It was a sole sponsorship, and there we had a lounge called oh gosh, I forgot what it was called. Gosh, it just went.
I think.
The Commons Design. Okay.
Okay, so let's see. Do we need to start from the very top? Probably, or...
We could.
You could.
I think there's
the start of that answer is probably...
Right, okay, so let's talk about how you launched this program.
Yes, so we decided to do this in a very unexpected way, right? In a place that we were not probably supposed to be at or expected to be at. So we launched at South by Southwest. Because we are an innovation company, a technology company, because we're transforming to enable our clients' businesses through this, we decided to show up at the world's innovation stage. And with that, we had two activations. The first being that we were the sole sponsors of the Future Workplace track. There we had a lounge called the Commons, designed by ADP. It was an opportunity for revelers to come join us, to really meet our subject matter experts, hands-on to data and analytics that we have, and to participate in fireside chats. So that's in the business section.
So let's talk about that.
Yes.
What happened at these things that you sort of made you smile and were sort of, because this is, again, ADP, South by Southwest, two dots that have not been connected before, nor would you in your mind. Those folks are thinking, honestly, all cloud-based. They're the Gustos of the world people, right? Yes. They're really looking at they're the Ubers, not the traditionals. And so being old isn't good. Being old is old. So what sort of surprised you, and how did that part of it, the Commons, sort of, how did that play out? And as you were watching this, you were going, yeah.
So what was interesting to watch or unfold that I had never seen before for the brand is that there was an interaction down to the employee level. We had historically been a B2B company, and as we transitioned to a B2B to C company, our brand was now interacting down to the individual level, which really was not an audience for us previously.
Sure.
So individuals were coming to the lounge, interacting with us, and hopefully they become influencers to their employers, right? Now, I will say, so that happened in the business section of the festival. In the experiential section of the festival, we also had a second activation called Breaking Barriers. So very much linked to our brand. It was a smash room concept. So we would suit you up, you'd go in, you'd select one of 4 workplace barriers to metaphorically break. And so that was a lot of fun.
Oh my gosh.
Very therapeutic.
I saw video of that.
Yes. America's very stressed.
Yes. America's really stressed. I saw a young lady who was dressed in like a hazmat suit breaking glass. Breaking the glass ceiling.
That's right. So the glass ceiling was very popular. We also had pay inequality. We also had work-life balance, and we had it just escaped me. Hold on. Wait, we had work-life balance. Outdated work systems. Okay, so we'll talk about the 4.
Yes, so we'll pick up with. Okay. So I saw a video of a woman in her hazmat suit. She was covered, and she breaks this glass, and it just shatters all over her. It was a very cool video.
Yes, it was very therapeutic. It was one of 4 that revelers could select from. Obviously, the glass ceiling, pay inequality, work-life balance, and outdated work systems.
Outdated work system, and that gives you a chance to talk about product a little bit.
That's right. That's right. This was really an opportunity to interact with the general public so that they could perceive us in a very different way. In fact, one of the things that makes me smile is that we were called the dark horse of South by Southwest by Adweek. We were also called one of the top 5 craziest activations there.
Love that.
Right?
Yeah.
So very unexpected place, very unexpected brand.
Right.
And yet we gained a lot of visibility and attention there. And you just never know. That could go very well, could also not go well for the first time.
Sure. So that's your launch, and you're launching it on a relatively small but elite group of people who are obviously influential in the tech space. Cool. Now what?
So over that weekend, the rest of the campaign started to roll out. So, of course, I mentioned about our manifesto, publicly published in the media. We also had, as I said, an installation at New York City's Oculus, as well as San Francisco's BART station. From there, continued to unfold with our first ever TV commercials featuring our clients with radio, print, digital, so really the full 360 approach. And that continues in market today and will continue to unfold in the upcoming months.
A couple of things on that is I actually love the fact that this is both offline and online, because so many there's so much pressure to spend all your money digitally, yet particularly since you're B2B2C, you have a broad audience.
Yes.
I mean, how many hundreds of thousands of people are actually on ADP payroll? Millions.
Well, we have over 740,000 clients around the world.
Clients?
Yes, and then number of employees.
Right, so multiply that by 10 or 20 or 50. It's a lot of people. So it's pretty broad. So if you're trying to change perception, besides the fact that they get a paycheck from you twice a month, or hopefully, or once a week, advertising, then there'll be this moment where they'll see an ad, and then they'll get their paycheck, and you go, oh, right, they'll start to connect it. Okay, so you've been doing this. You've been doing this now for 3+ months. What are the early indicators that things are going well?
So, in addition to a significant amount of social media engagement with us, it's also been very well received by the media and the press. Right? It's an incredible story to tell for what had been a legacy brand, now transforming to be future forward. Right? It's also been very well received by our clients and by our prospects. We have clients who are calling us and say, "I heard your commercial," or "I heard the radio ad. This is exactly who you are. I recognize that."
That's nice.
And we also have candidates who are now applying for roles at ADP. So from an employer brand perspective,
interesting.
There are individuals who are now applying to roles who have said, "This is the first time I'm applying to ADP, and I'm doing that because I've seen your new advertising, and I want to be part of what you stand for."
See, purpose-driven works. And this is one of the challenges. We were talking about this before we started rolling the tape, is that a good rebranding, a purpose-driven brand, plays multiple roles with employees, customers, and prospects. And with employees, it's not only helps they're working for a company they believe in, but other people want to work there. So your yield is higher and your turnover in theory should be lower. But if you go to the CEO and say, "Hey, we want to measure this campaign based on recruitment and retention," what? Because there's so much attention on growth.
Yes.
Yet, what are one of the biggest barriers to growth? Not having a motivated workforce.
That's right.
So this is the hard part of brand measurement, of when you do change your brand, you do add that. How are you trying to measure those? We've got some anecdotal evidence that customers are happy, employees are happier. But how are you sort of looking at this and in total bringing the sort of metrics to the table that will pass muster in the C-suite?
So we could have simply updated our mission and our vision.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, we wanted to self-reflect, as I mentioned before. We want to become that purpose-driven company that is very enduring, that is motivating to not only our own associates, but to the world at large. And so when we set out to do the work, the way that I think about this is that the brand is not, yes, it will drive growth for the business, but it becomes the lens by which we make every decision in the company, right? It is the lens by which we decide, in terms of who to partner with, who to acquire,
right,
what to build on our own, right? Because to your earlier point, you can't say you stand for one thing and make decisions that reinforce another thing, right? You have to be authentic and deliver on that promise. So while we are here today, we did throw that pebble out into the pond and we're swimming towards it, right? It's also aspirational, but it is authentic and indicative of who we are. But again, the brand work becomes that lens by which we will make every decision in the company. It will ultimately influence or impact our awareness, our perception, our consideration, all the way to business growth. And we set out those aspirations and those metrics from the start, and we will be monitoring that on a regular basis to ensure that we're moving the needle in the right direction. Early indicators do tell us after 2.5, 3 months, it's been well received, it is resonating, and we're hitting the audience that we intended to target.
Right. I suspect it will be 2 or 3 anecdotes of, hey, I saw your new campaign, so we decided to switch payroll company. That will be the things that really, even though all these other things are good,
yes.
The other thing will be interesting is if your customers approach you and say, hey, I want to be in that ad. I want to be part of this. Then you know you're in a really good place as well, because then you've got the self-perpetuating thing where you're making your customer a hero, you're making them look good, and they're helping you. It's really that's a nice combination. Okay, so we've got a bunch of CMOs listening, and you've gone through this lengthy exercise. Give us 2 do's and a don't. 2 things that they really that you learned along the way that really could be instructive to other CMOs.
2 do's. So I would share, again, you have to take your employees on the journey with you. They are the ambassadors of your brand ultimately, right? And I really do believe that culture and brand are connected. And I often say character is behavior and behavior is culture. Mm-hmm. Culture is brand. Hence, I wanted to spend so much time and focus on our associate base and to help bring them along in this journey. So number 1, internal is key to your success. It will make or break your external launch. Another do, be brave, be bold. I often say that my mission in this role is to make ADP a category of one. Right?
A category of one.
Yes. So to tell a story that no one else can tell and to bring that promise to life every day for our clients. A don't would be focusing on just the creative and just the actual tactical execution. As I said before, brand becomes the lens by which you make every decision in your company. It is every touch point. And it's a living, breathing thing that is always evolving. And so I think as marketers, we have historically focused on the campaign, the creative. Right. But in fact, this is something that should live on, and the story should unfold for many years.
Love it. What a great summary. I can barely add to that, but of course I will. So anybody listening to this show knows that we believe that you have to get employees on board no matter what, and you have to get them on board early and often, because if they don't believe it, and then number 2, the customer, obviously, and that leads directly to the prospect. I love your sort of equation of behavior equals culture equals brand. That's a great thing. One of the guests talked about he's not really interested in values. everybody's interested in behavior, because that's the actual demonstration of values and so forth. So, and that's really an interesting thing. And what an exciting part for a CMO to be able to not think about just execution. And this, to me, is the biggest problem. And so that's what the book is, that my next book is about, is saying, look, if you're spending 83% of your dollars on demand generation, chances are you're way too far downstream to actually make a fundamental difference for the company. Where you're going to get lost is in all your marketing automation, optimization, and you're going to lose sight of the fact of these other things that we've talked about. So with that, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It's great. Okay, to all those folks who have stayed with us this far, thank you so much for listening. As always, I've been getting some good text suggestions. I'm going to give you my cell phone, 917-679-8852. Text me with ideas for the show. Text to a friend who should be listening to this show. And do me one favor, after this episode, go and rate the show on iTunes. Would love to get a few more of those. Thank you as always. And until next time, keep those renegade thinking caps on and strong.
This has been Renegade Thinkers Unite, but it doesn't end there. Just go to renegadethinkersunite.com for more and subscribe to the show. That way, you'll never miss an episode. We'll talk with you next time on Renegade Thinkers Unite.